Oh, hello guys. Best arguments against the labour theory of value. Let's go. So what is it? Average prices are directly proportional to average labour time. All profit comes from labour, and prices approximately represent socially necessarily labour time. This is one of the key ideas in Marxian economics and socialism in general. This is a great paper, Use Value, Exchange Value, and the Demise of Labour Theory of Value by Steve Keen, post-Keynesian economist, great stuff. So the first argument is that machines do produce profit, and what Karl Marx has done in his writings is that he looks at machines no different to raw materials. For example, in this quote here, he says that the only value that a machine has is basically the value that it's purchased for. And he says that if a machine costs £150, it cannot transfer any more than £150 to the total goods produced. But this logic is quite disingenuous, because if a labourer can produce profit because a labourer inputs productive energy, then why can't a machine produce profit? Because machines input productive energy. From an objective standpoint, there is no difference between a labourer and a machine. There was a really good quote from Piero Straffa which said, "When a horse pushes a cart, does the horse not produce profit? From an objective standpoint, in the eyes of a capitalist, there is no difference between a horse or a worker." It's also assumed that machines depreciate, and you get this a lot in Marx's writings. But these days, machines don't depreciate. I'm not an expert on machines, but most machines don't depreciate at all. And so if a machine is finite in value, say it costs £100, but the machine lives forever, so it could produce an infinite amount of units, that means that the exchange value that is transferred from the machine into the individual unit produced is nothing. It's virtually nothing. For example, a machine costs £100, divide that by an infinite amount of units produced. That's £0 transferred from the machine into each individual unit produced. So either machines transfer no exchange value into each product produced, or machines do produce something, and that something is use value. So how does this affect other socialist ideas? One of the socialist ideas is, well, refuting an idea called the economic calculation problem, which is to do with central economic planning. Someone like Paul Cockshott proposes using the LTV to plan economies using a centralized system. And obviously, in a state socialist economy, because prices don't exist, they have to be reconstructed in order to create an intermediary value between different commodities. But if the LTV is used, that creates a problem because the LTV is flawed. If the LTV does not factor in machinery, then that means the LTV is definitely flawed, because what if there are products that have less labour time and more machine time? Oops. Take a 3D printer, for example. Suppose that a 3D printer takes in £100 of raw materials, and because a machine does not depreciate, there is virtually no exchange value transferred from a machine into the total product produced. According to the labour theory of value, there would be the total goods produced would amount to £100, excluding profit. But the problem here is that machine time is not taken into account. And once again, this is flawed because you have to take into account machine time. If the Marxists are going to take into account labour time, why can't they take into account machine time? Yeah, and also even classical Even the classical economics idea of supply and demand, it does take into account machine time in a way, because if a product takes lots of machine time to produce, there's a little supply of that good because it takes lots of time to produce it. And that means the price would be high because there's low supply because of high machine time needed to produce a product. Another idea like the falling rate of profit also comes apart. Now, just to remind you what it is. Because of competition, capitalists need to reform the means of production to have more machinery and less labour. But if there's less labour, there's less profit, because all profit comes from labour, so less labour means less profit. And so as a result, wages have to be reduced as much as possible so capitalists can actually get profit. But because the wages go so low, that means the peasants get really angry, they revolt, and capitalism ends as you know it. But apart from the fact that machines also produce profit, what's another problem? There's also assumption that all goods are homogeneous, meaning that all a capitalist can do is produce a product and sell it for cheaper, when in today's world, a capitalist can also try to make the product at higher quality. And of course, there are many different types of quality that exist. There are hundreds of different qualities that exist in a commodity. So what does this mean? Well, it doesn't mean, and history has shown this, it doesn't mean that prices go lower and lower. In fact, prices can be the same if not higher, because commodities can have more quality, and consumers are willing to pay more money for more quality in products. This is why the subjective theory of value is so important, because you have to realize that every single commodity is heterogeneous, not homogeneous, heterogeneous. Anyway, that's the end of this presentation. Hope you like it. Leave a like, subscribe, bing, bing, bing. Bye-bye.